Beyond the buzzer, inside the game, this is Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
Oh my goodness, it is Friday, coming to you here from the Lucas Oil Stadium in downtown Indianapolis, the Final Four, getting ready here for college basketball's penultimate weekend, and it is outstanding. You can hear the Michigan band here behind me as the Wolverines, University of Michigan, on the court right now. They will face Arizona in Game 2. Saturday night, Game 1 will be Illinois versus UConn. Those two teams already out here. This is always really just a fun atmosphere to see all the different colors of the different schools out here, people walking around the city, and it's exciting here. It's exciting for me personally because my first Final Four that I ever covered was back in 1997, just really across the street where it used to be the RCA Dome. Of course, they tore that down. That was the year that Arizona, the 4 seed, knocked off Kentucky in overtime in one of the great thrilling finals that we have seen in this fantastic event. Hey, great history, great show, I should say, going up here. We'll get into some Final Four history in a moment. Aryton Ostly joining us from USA Today, talking a little NFL draft as we're getting closer to that. And then also Pete Babcock joining us once again, the former longtime NBA executive. We had him on before, if you remember, talking about a new book that he has out. Producer Tony talking with him, and so we can't wait to bring that conversation to you as well here on the Sports IQ. Larry Smith here as Indianapolis. Let's get to some of our headlines before we bring in Aryton and talk to him here in just a moment. A conversation you will notice quieter because I talked to Aryton back before I arrived here inside the dome. So you're going to hear a quick difference in just the volume level. We talked to him in a moment. Bad night for the Lakers last night. Not only did LA get humbled by OKC 139-86, but Luka Dončić leaving in the third quarter, what appeared to be a hamstring injury. He'll have an MRI done, and we'll see where he goes from there. Jalen Duren had 22 points, 14 rebounds. Stannis Jenkins with 26 points. Detroit over Minnesota 113-108 Thursday night. Both teams were without a superstar. Minnesota ruling out all-star guard Ant Edwards, listing his right knee injury and an illness about 90 minutes before tip-off. The Pistons announcing earlier in the day that Cade Cunningham would be out for at least another week to recover from that collapsed left lung. They've managed to keep winning, though, without their all-star. De'Aaron Fox scoring 22 points on 9 of 13 shooting. Spurs beating the Clippers 118-99 without Victor Wembanyama in the lineup to win their 11th in a row. Wow. Wembanyama rested on the second night of a back-to-back. He had 41 points, 13 rebounds in that win over Golden State, 127-113 on Thursday. 2026 NIT championship game is now set. Number 1 seed Auburn. Remember the Tigers. Everyone, a lot of people, including Bruce Pearl, was trying to lobby to get them in the NCAA tournament. Didn't happen. They have a chance now to win the NIT championship as at Gainbridge Fieldhouse, right down the street here from where we are at Lucas Oil Stadium. They got semifinal wins. They and number 1 seed Tulsa on Thursday. Auburn defeating 4 seed Illinois State 88-66. Tulsa punched its ticket, the Golden Hurricane, 74-69 over number 1 seed New Mexico State. In golf now, Phil Mickelson announcing he will not play in next week's Masters and he'll be out for an extended period as his family continues to, quote, navigate a personal health matter. It'll be the first time since 1994 that 5-time Masters champion Tiger Woods and Mickelson, a 3-time winner of the Green Jacket, both missed the first major of the season. Woods announced on Tuesday he was stepping away for a period of time to seek treatment and, quote, focus on my health, announcing that decision just days after he was arrested on suspicion of DUI and refusal to submit to a lawful test stemming from a rollover car crash in Florida. A Virginia Circuit Court judge denying Virginia quarterback Chandler Morris's request for a preliminary injunction to play a 7th season. That upon Thursday. Morris, now 25 years old, the quarterback, sued the NCAA in Charlottesville Circuit Court in February in an attempt to return for one more season after his extension of eligibility waiver and appeal were denied by the NCAA earlier this year. Morris, who led the Cavaliers to 11 wins in the ACC championship game in 2025, played 6 seasons and started 35 games during his stints at Oklahoma, TCU, North Texas, and Virginia. Yeah, I don't think for a minute, because we're talking basketball, we have not taken our eye off the football, as it were. NFL draft is still creeping towards that, coming up here later on this month. Joining us once again right now is Aryton Ostly. He's the NFL trending reporter for USA Today. Aryton, good to see you. How are you?
I'm doing well, doing well. Good to be here.
Yeah,
Excited.
yeah, absolutely. Well, let's start with that. You're the NFL trending report. What is trending right now in the NFL? It's a good place to start.
Oh my goodness, it is everything draft. Luckily, the Atlanta Falcons had a little something this morning for us with the unveiling of their new jerseys and Kirk Cousins signing with the Raiders. But pretty much beyond that, it is all draft, all gas, no brakes.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. What is it? Kirk Cousins, that guy that. Listen, I know right now, guys want to play. He's at the end of his career. He's outlasted the guy he was drafted with in Washington, RG3, who's been, and I feel like with ESPN for a decade now. It seems like, But to me, if I'm Kirk Cousins, you're gonna look back, and his grandkids look back and say, "I'm so glad my grandpa got all those crazy 1-year deals for $30 million back in the day, because now
Absolutely.
we don't have to work at all." What do you think? What will he bring to the Raiders? Speaking of with that signing.
Oh, definitely familiarity with the system with Clint Kubiak. The two of them worked together in Minnesota, so he's definitely a veteran presence there. Especially it's pretty much a lock. I would not, if I was a betting man, I would not bet against it. With Fernando Mendoza coming to town with the number 1 overall pick, it just helps to have a guy who's been around, been in multiple systems, familiar with the head coach, familiar with the NFL, just there to help. Mendoza's a high character guy, but just doesn't hurt to have a experienced veteran there with him. So I think it was one of those ideal signings. As soon as he was out in Atlanta, it was like, it just made too much sense.
Yeah.
Once Clint Kubiak was signed in there for Vegas, it's a perfect fit.
Yeah. Don't you think too that it's a much better situation than when he got to Atlanta, that he was signed thinking he's the guy. This is my team for the next 3 or 4 years, and then a month later, they draft Michael Penix Jr. So at least now he goes in understanding that he is the mentor, and he could be the starter. If Mendoza doesn't pan out here in the summer, but at least it's a different situation now. And I think Kurt, having watched him up close in Washington and his career at Michigan State, and I think he also now is maybe perhaps better equipped to handle this, if that's fair to say, than maybe before in Atlanta.
I would absolutely say so. Yeah. I mean, he's at the point of his career right now where I think he kind of is like, all right, this is where I'm at. He was never a physical marvel as a quarterback. Yeah. He wasn't one of those big bodied, strong armed guys in the first place. So as he's aging, it's like, okay, his effectiveness maybe not quite doesn't stay quite as level as a lot of those other guys. Just as I said, having that perspective, knowing like, hey, I've been in Washington, been in Minnesota, been in Atlanta, now understand what we're going through here. And especially as I said, like he comes in knowing they're going to get a quarterback with the first overall pick. This is not a Penix a surprise pick at 8. So definitely a bit better.
Yeah. What do you think with Kubiak coming in? You signed Cousins as a guy to kind of solidify the quarterback room. The Raiders have been a franchise that have really struggled overall. How do you think these moves will change things there with this franchise that has really just struggled? It feels like, boy, for the last, 10 years, 15 years, maybe. They've struggled in finding their footing in terms of an NFL franchise and being competitive year in, year out, let alone competing for championships. But a team that year in, year out is going to compete there in the West and try to take it from there.
Yeah, I think it's a big deal. I think it was interesting during Fernando Mendoza's pro day yesterday. They had NFL Network threw a graphic up there, which was the last time the Raiders won a playoff game was before Mendoza was born. It's like, oh my goodness, it's been a hot minute here. Yeah. But I think just having these all kind of fall into place, there was a lot of hope last year. I was really hopeful with bringing in Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly with what he'd done in Ohio State. And Pete Carroll, obviously one of the most experienced coaches, championship winning coach, could bring some stability as they come in. Obviously, that did not pan out.
Right.
So going for someone who's kind of like swinging the opposite direction of like, okay, let's get a young, offensive-minded head coach, getting a number 1 overall pick at quarterback who's a Heisman Trophy winner, everyone raves about his character. Yeah. These are the kind of off seasons that can really reset a franchise. So I know I'm perfectly understanding if Raiders fans are cautiously pessimistic, if not even optimistic at all, considering how the last while has gone. But I would say all the signs are there that this is a good starting spot for a full-blown rebuild. And one of the big things I think about is the Raiders going out and getting Tyler Linderbaum. I know it reset the center market, but getting an experienced center who's done it at a high level, understands how things work, can just take the pressure off of Mendoza. Mm-hmm. You look at what they did on defense just to kind of raise the floor. A lot of this stuff is just raising the floor of the team overall. It's like, yeah, the AFC West is going to be really, really tough. You have the Chiefs, who are probably going to bounce back. You got the Chargers. It's not going to be easy, but having this higher floor and going into this being like, okay, we understand we're not necessarily going to be competing for the West right away, but we're laying the foundation, and you got to be pretty optimistic about that.
And I think too, they're still new in Vegas. It's still the new toy right now. And so obviously the fan base super supportive. You've got the stadium, you have all the other pieces around the products on the field. Now you got to deliver. And to your point, I think, like you said, when I started that question, I began thinking back like, boy, it has been a really long time since this has happened. So good to see it there. What other things are you seeing right now in the draft in terms of teams beginning to kind of solidify kind of what direction they may go in? And is it beginning to shape up in terms of the top 10, 15 picks, or is that still very much in flux?
It's still in flux. The most sure thing is Mendoza at one. But the interesting thing about this class is beyond Mendoza, you're looking at all these premium prospects. They're all at non-premium positions. So this is I'll beat the drum for this. This is an outstanding linebacker class, probably one of the best linebacker classes we've had in the last 5 years, easily. And you look at safety as well. Like the top 5 prospects in my mind are Mendoza. You got a running back, a safety, and 2 linebackers. So this is not a class that's typical for what teams are looking for in that top 10. So that's why it's a little bit in flux. I think it's interesting. One of the biggest things we saw in free agency that I think points to a general feeling in the league is both New Orleans and Kansas City going out and spending for running backs to get ETN and Kenneth Walker, respectively. So getting those guys in there, I think, sends a signal they don't expect Jeremiah Love to make it out of the top 7 picks. So I think, as he's, in my opinion, the top offensive weapon just overall in the class. He's a running back on a level prospect-wise of a Jahmyr Gibbs, of a Bijan Robinson. He's a top-tier guy, and the question is where he's going to land, but it seems that generally league-wide the feeling is he may make it out of the top 5 picks, but not out of the top 7, probably.
Yeah. Are we going to see more of a run on running backs? I've asked other experts this as well, that it feels like with what Walker did, you mentioned Gibbs, Robinson in Atlanta, and some others, that there is a period of time there that the running back was kind of devalued as we looked very pass heavy. Walker kind of brought sexy back, right, with Seattle. So I'm wondering, will we see more of that? Is it those value picks still maybe on day 2 that we're going to see some guys come in and they can plug in and maybe make some noise?
Yeah, unfortunately, this is not the class to do it because last year was the awesome running back class, the generational running back class. It was, you could get value guys in round 6 that were like, speaking of New Orleans, you got Devin Neal coming in there. He's a day 3 guy, and it's like, oh, he can start a few weeks and be a viable fantasy football running back. My goodness. So looking around at this class, it's a little bit different just because there's Love. Love's kind of like what Ashton Genty was last year, where he's a clear-cut number 1 guy, probably at easily top 5 pick, top 8 at the worst. But looking around the rest of the class, is pretty much his teammate from Notre Dame, Jadarian Price, who's probably going to be an early day 2 guy unless someone wants to take a bit of a leap at the end of round 1. Looking at Jonah Coleman out of Washington, Emmett Johnson out of Nebraska. Those are another 2 guys who are probably going to be day 2 guys. And then you kind of get down a little bit farther and it's like, okay, you can get some folks where you see in day 2, day 3, they could be situational guys. Like I look at Mike Washington Jr. from Arkansas, who had an amazing NFL combine, running the 40 he did at 6'1", 223 is just incredible. But he does come with a bit of a red flag. Fumbles were a big issue for him in Arkansas. Look at other guys where, maybe they had checkered injury histories. I know Jaden Ott had a bit of an injury issue, went from Cal to Oklahoma, didn't perform as well as we would have hoped. So it's kind of one of those, okay, was it the system? Was it him? What's going on? So the thing is, you could get some guys on day 2, day 3 easily, especially some guys that are outliers athletically, like Washington. I look at Nicholas Singleton from Penn State. But I would say maybe not as many guys who could be like, bell cow, or not bell cow, but take on the majority of the carries, lead the rushing attack. Maybe not quite as many as there were last year, for sure.
Absolutely. Talking with Aryton Ostly of USA Today as we're getting ready for the NFL draft here later on this month. You mentioned the Ott kid, the running back who went from Cal to Oklahoma, like you said, and really had some, like you said, injury issues. Like you said, was that part of it, or like you said, was it something more? How has the transfer portal affected evaluating talent right now? I mean, given what you do on the field but that's a great example. You never know until after the fact, right? But if you, let's say Ott stayed with the Golden Bears and was healthy and had a good season, would his stock then be higher than the way it was now. It feels like in the transfer portal, there's the bag to be made. There's a chance to move up in a situation. There are all kinds of reasons you would leave a school and transfer. But in the big picture, it feels like there is still that possible risk if things don't work out. And then now a year later, you're in the draft, maybe with a question mark over your head.
Totally. It's definitely one of those ones where it may not be, it could be a word to the wise for some of the folks transferring that, hey, make sure you're going to a situation that's going to work for you, where you're going to be in a good system that plays to your strengths and you feel confident getting your target share. I mean, I look at, something on offense where you see somebody who transferred like Casey Concepcion over at Texas A&M, did a great job, basically comes in and he's a dynamic weapon in the open field, showing off his ability, especially as immediate value as a returner. And you look in this class, there's not at the wide receiver position a lot of guys who are field stretchers, at least among the top guys, in my opinion. So seeing somebody like Concepcion, he's like, okay, I'm one of the faster guys. I'm going to an offense that gave me a little bit more opportunity. Great call for him. You see some folks, doesn't necessarily work out like it did for Ott. You see some folks, again, in this class. I look at Chris Johnson. There's the cornerback out of San Diego State. He's a guy who could have easily transferred. He has the talent. He's, in my opinion, a top 50 guy at the very least. But he's, going to San Diego State, 6 foot, 193, prototypical size, good speed. The numbers are there. He didn't allow a touchdown in 2025, only a 16.1 passer rating when targeted. But he's doing this at San Diego State, so there's going to be some question marks like, okay, he did it there, but what about, this is where doing it at the Senior Bowl counts, doing it at the Shrine Bowl counts, where you're getting this equalizing opportunity against good competition. But as far as transferring goes, I think it just shows you got to be more confident in where you're going, because if the opportunity is not there, your stock is going to plummet. Would Ott be a higher ranked prospect if he'd stayed at Cal? Who knows? But there's a chance he could have been.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's just kind of what I was thinking. Give us a name or two that maybe you think that teams are sleeping on right now that may not be a top 15 or even a day one pick that you think in the right situation could really be somebody that has tremendous upside.
I look at, if we're going to look, I got to plug my guy. I love Johnson. I love Chris Johnson at San Diego State. So I got to plug him. He's a guy that I'm just excited to see where he ends up. Looking beyond that, though, when it comes to running backs, I'm a big fan of Jonah Coleman, a guy out of Washington in this weaker running back class. He's 5'8", 220. So he's built pretty powerful, but he's shockingly agile on the field. When you watch him, it's like, oh, I didn't realize. You check the tape, you're like, okay, and then you check the numbers, you're like, he's 220, my goodness. But he also is a guy who churns out yards as a runner. He's got that low center of gravity, and he's a good plus pass protector for this part of this development track.
Yeah.
So he's a guy I'm looking out for, where I'm like, hey, he brings. Because one of the biggest knocks for running backs coming out of college is, can you pass protect? Can you pass protect? For somebody like Coleman, he's proven he can do that at a good enough level where offensive coordinator can plug him in and go, you know what? That's okay. I'm feeling confident about him. Yeah. This is a very fun tight end class. So you have Kenyon Sadiq out of Oregon. He's going to be a first-round pick. Absolute marvel. Looking around at the rest of the class, and there's easily a dozen or more draftable tight ends. This is a really fun class if you're looking for guys with different skill sets. One guy I'm really high on, Max Clare out of Ohio State. He's a guy, prototypical size, 6'5", 243, but he's one of those ones that may have a better NFL career than a college career simply from opportunity. He's a tight end at Ohio State, so he's trying to share targets with Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith, two guys who are going to be Carnell Tate's a top 10 pick. Jeremiah Smith may be a top 5 pick next year. So this is one where it's like, honestly, just from getting more opportunity, could we see more out of a guy like him? Yeah. He has good size, good athleticism. He's a willing blocker, very adept at finding holes in zone coverage. So like what I see out of Max Clare, he's a guy who's probably going to go, mid day 2, but he could end up being one of the better tight ends in the class by far.
Wow. That's interesting stuff. And you're exactly right. One of those where that's kind of maybe it never a detriment playing on a team that's going to compete for national championships. But at the same time, you have that many weapons, right? There's only one ball to go around. So listen, Aryton,
exactly.
Man, great to talk with you. Have a great weekend, and hopefully we can find some time in your schedule to talk again soon. This has been great just to get some inside info and kind of, again, with an expert, kind of peel back the layers a little bit and kind of see what else is happening here as we get ready. It's always an exciting time of year, this offseason and the stocking of talent that we have every April.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's going to be a fun draft. I'm looking forward to it, and happy to chat anytime. Happy to be here.
Sounds good. Have a great weekend. Take care. All right. Aryton Ostly joining us once again. He is the NFL trending reporter for USA Today. Knows his stuff. Getting ready for the NFL draft later on here this month. Okay, quick timeout. Much more to come here with the Sports IQ. Those old golf clubs sitting in your garage right now, there's a good chance they're worth real money. That driver you replaced, those irons you upgraded, even that putter collecting dust. Golf Roots lets you trade them in for cash or credit toward your next set. And right now, Sports IQ listeners get exclusive offers. Take $20 off any order over $100 with code SIQSALE, or get a 15% bonus on your trade-in value with code SIQ TRADE-IN. That means the clubs in your garage could be worth even more. Golf Roots is on a mission to make golf more accessible, offering high-quality, pre-owned name brand clubs for every skill level. And if you're just starting out, the Just the Roots starter set is one of the most affordable ways to begin, with full trade-in credit when you're ready to upgrade. So don't let your old gear sit there losing value. Go to golfroots.com and see how you can start or upgrade your golf journey today. Use code SIQSALE for $20 off, or SIQ TRADE-IN for 15% extra when you trade in your old clubs. That's golfroots.com. Golf Roots. Upgrade smarter.
Fans of big sports radio and sports spectacular podcasts have a new home on the Chief Sports Network. Find your favorite programs and content all in one place by downloading the Chief Sports app in your mobile device. Created in South Carolina, the Chief Sports Network is the home of an expanding network of live and podcast format programming. It is also the home of one of the leading national college football podcasts, JC and Morgan, hosted by ESPN's Mike Morgan and 24/7 Sports' JC Sherbert. Download the Chief Sports app for free and find all of your favorite programming under one easy umbrella. Thanks to all of our markets for your loyal support of Big Sports Radio and our Sports Spectacular podcast, and we look forward to connecting with you anywhere in the world on the Chief Sports app.
You're listening to Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
Welcome back here. Lucas Oil Stadium is where I'm here. Sports IQ, Larry Smith, getting ready for the 2026 Final Four. Illinois, UConn, and Arizona, Michigan. We talked about in terms of just the history here, and it was right here 29 years ago that I covered my first Final Four, and it was the first championship and only title for Arizona. Lute Olson coming in, of course, with the perfect coiffed hair. His late wife, Bobby, was right behind me, talking with her. Got a chance to get to know her during the semifinal games and, of course, the championship on that Monday night as Arizona beat Kentucky in overtime to get that first title. We've talked a lot about not only their history, my own personal history. This was also where a young guy named Seth Davis got his start. So I'm here for CNN Sports, the network CNN SI. I got a call from my bosses saying, hey, we're going to have this young guy work with you. He's going to be your analyst, not the usual guys, but a new analyst. We're going to try him out here from Sports Illustrated. His name is Seth Davis. And so we sat out here on center court and did our live shots there on Sunday, did our look lives, as we say in the business, our reports. And Seth was a natural from the very beginning. I just saw Seth this morning, talk with him. Great to see him. Great to see our friend Mike DeCourcy, who just announced this earlier this week. He's going to be retiring from Sporting News. He'll still be doing some things, but won't be a full-time writer. Great to talk with him. We appreciate all of his insights that he comes on our show several times a year and talks with us here on Sports IQ. So Arizona, great history for here. Michigan, a good contingent. You're hearing their band right now out here behind us. The Wolverines, an outstanding season. They have been the team that has had great success here over the past 10 to 15 years. A couple of title game appearances under John Beilein during the 20-teens before he went to go try the NBA, not successfully. Juwan Howard came in, got them to an Elite Eight. And then after only 8 wins 2 years ago, Dusty May coming in from Florida Atlantic, getting there to the Sweet 16 last year, and then this year in the Final Four. And many think they have a great shot to win this championship, to go with the one that they won back in 1989. They were a 3 seed back then, and they beat Big Ten nemesis Illinois in Seattle in the national semifinal in that game after losing to the Illini twice during the season. Illinois is a 3 seed this year. They lost to Michigan in their lone meeting back in late February in Champaign. The Illini, though, have come on strong. 4 straight wins here, all 4 by double digits, and they feel like they have a shot to win this if they can get past UConn. But again, UConn right now is the team. 6 NCAA championships here in the past 3 decades, going back to 1999, and doing with different coaches, Jim Calhoun, Kevin Ollie, and now Dan Hurley has come in. We've talked about before, we did a recount, 20 different teams have now reached the Final Four when you include these four in this decade. That is just shy of the record set back in 1940. So, this is, again, an event we've talked about. We don't have the Blue Bloods here, but I don't think anybody here cares. It is great to see these fan bases. It is great right now for college basketball to have this kind of parity. And in sports overall, looking in the Big Ten, we had Indiana, of all schools, winning a college football national championship. Still can't believe that happened. But it's fun for college sports to have all these different schools in here. Indianapolis, in terms of the Final Four, they go back to 1980, the first time this city ever hosted the national championship. Back then it was Louisville and Darrell Griffith, the guy, nickname of Dr. Dunkenstein, getting the win back in 1980. Diddy Crum, his first of two NCAA championships. The longtime John Wooden assistant coach at UCLA also led the Cardinals to the title over Duke in Dallas in 1986 for the two championships there for Louisville. So they got the first win in the first ever Final Four held here. That was in 1980 at the old Market Square Arena, which has been torn down for the new Gainbridge Fieldhouse. And as we mentioned earlier, that's where the NIT semifinals and finals will be held here in Indianapolis. It's just a great scene. I remember being here again back in 1997, walking down the street with my wife, looking up, and this young kid, tall kid named Tim Duncan was walking in front of me in just a windbreaker and jeans, about to become one of the all-time legends, first round overall, number one overall pick by San Antonio, and of course the 5 championships as the center part of that dynasty there in San Antonio with the Spurs. Tim Duncan, Wake Forest never made it to the Final Four, but Tim Duncan was here before his life was just about to change. Getting ready here for tip-off for these two games. The two Big Ten teams, by the way, are both favored tomorrow night. Both about 1.5-point favorites to get the win. If that happens and we go to that, it'd be the first time we'd have two Big Ten teams in the title game since 1976, when another Indiana connection, the Indiana Hoosiers, beat Michigan to complete the undefeated season 32-0, and that was the last time we've had an undefeated champion. 50 years ago this year was when it happened, and I'm telling you right now, I don't think it'll ever happen again. Parity now in the sport, the way that scheduling goes, it's just so difficult just to have a team win even the last 2 months of the year. If you talk about teams that can run the table at the end of the season, the last time a team went undefeated from February 1st all the way through was 1995 and UCLA under Jim Herrick when they got it done way back in the Bruins getting the championship. The only one that we've seen since the legendary John Wooden retired there in Westwood. So much more to talk about here. Coming up, we're going to talk with producer Tony, catching up with Pete Babcock. We'll talk more about the Final Four this weekend. The women's Final Four also about to tip off in Phoenix. And something about the NBA that needs to change. And we're going to tell you why. That's coming up still here on the Sports IQ.
Are you paying too much for term life insurance? There's a tremendous price war among the major term life companies. Rates have dropped dramatically in the past 2 years. For example, a man age 45 non-tobacco user, $1 million of coverage is only $75 per month, level for the next 10 years. Or a man age 50 non-tobacco user can buy $500,000 of coverage for a monthly premium of only $110, guaranteed not to change for the next 20 years. That's right, level rates for 20 years. And if you're a smoker, we have great rates for you as well. At the Term Lifeline, we specialize in policies of $500,000 and above. So if you're looking for new or replacement term life insurance, call right now for a free quote.
Rates and availability may vary by state. Sample rate quotes are based on preferred non-tobacco underwriting exam required to qualify.
Call 855-826-7932. 855-826-7932. That's 855-826-7932.
Do you know someone with a drug or alcohol problem? Get help right now. Insurance may cover everything. Stop the drug and alcohol nightmare. Are drug and alcohol problems hitting you too close to home? Get help right now. Insurance may cover everything.
877-927-3380. 877-927-3380. That's 877-927-3380.
You're locked in to Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
Now back here at Lucas Oil Stadium, Larry Smith here on the Sports IQ, getting ready for the Final Four. Earlier this week, producer Tony caught up with our next guest.
Last time we had Pete on, it was just such an amazing conversation that we said, okay, we've got to get him back again. We've got to take another time, talk to him a little deeper, a little further about the book. So once again, we're joined by Pete Babcock. Pete, good morning. How are you, sir? Glad to have you back with us.
Thank you, Tony. I'm well. Everything's good. It's good to be with you again.
Let's dive a little deeper into the book. You were telling us some of the stories about Red Auerbach, and they were just fascinating. And you carried some of what he did into your career. And in places like Denver and Atlanta, you were very active with your players about getting them involved in the community. Tell us one of the stories about, you had told somebody else the story about it being in Denver. What program did you come up with, and how did it, do you think, help the team and those players?
Well, you're talking about the anti-gang program?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of a number of them. With that program, we had developed this gang problem in Denver. That Los Angeles was sending their worst gang members one-way bus tickets to Denver and just dumping them there. And so the gang problem in Denver began to build. And before that, it really wasn't much of a problem. But I remember sitting in my office thinking, like, we got to come up with a way that we can help with this somehow. So I went into the gang neighborhoods during the daytime and asked questions, trying to find somebody who was well respected in the community, who listened. All the gang members, the different gangs, would listen to. And I came up with this ex-con, Leon Kelly. And he had devoted his life to trying to break down the violence that was happening between young people. And so I met with Leon, and I said, how do you work? How do you make this happen? He said, well, every night I walk the neighborhoods, and if word gets to me that something's about to break out on some corner, I rush there as fast as I can to try to diffuse it. And we had no cell phones in those days. So it was not easy for Leon to get, somebody had to call on a hard line and say, have you seen Leon? Has he been on your street? He needs to get over to such and such a spot. So I said to Leon, could I go with you? Can I walk with you at night? He thought I was a little out of my mind, but he said, yeah, you can join me. So I would walk with him one night a week. And when we would come up to a group of gang members, you could see there was this wall up because here I am, this white guy walking into their community at night. But with Leon, as soon as he introduced me as the general manager of the Denver Nuggets, the wall would go down in most cases. Not always, but in most cases, the wall would go down. And the kids would want to talk about professional basketball, talk about our players, what's Alex Inglis like? What's Fat Lever like? Dan Issel, tell us about this guy, that guy. So I'd get to know these kids and spend time with them. And after a period of time of doing these weekly walks with Leon, we did two things. One is we partnered with one of our sponsors who was on the cutting edge of the first cell phones. They were the great big things. And we partnered with them and said, listen, we need you to give Leon one of these phones and give it to him with free minutes, because in those days, the minutes were really expensive, so that everybody had his number and they could call him directly rather than trying to run him down in the neighborhood. So he carried his phone with him now. We were able to do that. And then I said to Leon, I'd like you to bring opposing gang members that we've talked to and gotten to know to games and sit with me courtside. And so I wanted those young men to have exposure to other parts of life other than just the gang neighborhood. So we'd have them come early. We'd have dinner in our arena club, private restaurant. We'd take them to the locker room, visit with our players. Players get to know them and talk to them. Then have sit with me during the games. Introduce them to season ticket holders that were sitting around me. And on the good side, we had season ticket holders, in some cases, would offer these kids jobs working for their companies. And these kids would get out of the environment they were in. We had some negative things happen where one young man, his nickname was Peanut because he was smaller than the rest of the kids. He's probably 22 years old, I'm guessing. I got a call from Leon when we were on the road, and he said, something terrible happened last night. Peanut got killed. And I said, well, what happened? He said, well, he was trying to break up a fight, and somebody came up behind him and slit his throat. And the family, because you had him come to games and spend time with you, they want you to speak at his funeral. So it was an education for me, and also, but one of the sadder outcomes of the work that we were doing. But that was one program we started, and we started Native American visits and reservation visits every September by using the game as a vehicle to reach these kids.
How can sports these days, we live in a time, Pete, where our country should be coming together. We should be past a lot of things that happened 60, 70 years ago that seem to be coming back around again. Let's say, I'm with this, you're with that. We can't agree. We can't get along. How can sports bridge these gaps or help bridge these gaps to maybe help bring communities more together and, get people working, not yours ideas versus my ideas, but our ideas together can make things better?
Well, I think just by continuing to use the games themselves, whether it's football or basketball or baseball or whatever it may be, using those devices, if you want to call them devices, as the vehicles to reach out and to help educate. I think a good part of it is education. And, our divides become so accentuated because of a lack of education, a lack of understanding, and a lack of knowledge about the total picture. And when you stop teaching, excuse me, people stop learning, and if all they're hearing is one viewpoint, they're not seeing the total picture. And so sports brings people together from different backgrounds, different geographical backgrounds, cities, rural, different races, different religions. We had players, all different religions. We had Muslim players, we had Christian players, we had Jewish players, and we'd all come together as one group, and we'd learn from one another. And it breaks down barriers. The more you understand and you learn, then, like, prejudice is basically just ignorance. You don't know something, so you're afraid of it, and therefore you discriminate against it. What we would teach and talk to our players about is, let's use our differences as a means of respect. Learn about the differences that we all have, and learn to respect those differences rather than discriminating due to those differences. So I think more has to be done to continue to educate. And one of the things that bothers me is when we're erasing history, where if we're taking stories of the past that some people view as, well, they're negative stories about our country, but it's reality. You can't erase it. You can erase it, but it's not doing any good to erase it. People need to understand it so it's not repeated. So slavery was a terrible thing. You can't erase slavery. You have to learn about it. You have to learn about why it existed. You have to learn about the ramifications of it once it ended, and all the things that happened afterwards, where we had programs called peonage, and we had they set up after Reconstruction ended and the Northern troops left the South. Slavery kind of reinvented itself, so it wasn't called slavery anymore, but systems set up with the Jim Crow South, where you needed workers on your plantation or in your factory. You'd go to the local sheriff and you say, hey, I need like 5 workers. So they would have Jim Crow laws that were, discriminatory towards blacks and ridiculous laws like 2 or more blacks can't stand on the street corner and talk. That's illegal. So you go out and you arrest a number of black men and you take them to court. The judge is being paid off. He sentenced them to hard labor on the plantation. Now the plantation worker has workers again. The factory worker has forced labor, and they're told you got to work off this fine. That's an exorbitant fine, and it was called convict leasing, and it existed for years and years in our country, and it was forced labor, and it was a form of slavery. We need to know all that. We need to understand it, and to erase it doesn't make any sense to me.
Absolutely. Well, Pete, again, thank you so much for taking time to speak with our audience. And remember, get the book, Courts of Justice, A Life in Basketball and Activism by Pete. It's a great read. You can get it at PeteBabcock.com. Get a copy, get some knowledge. Pete, again, thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Tony, my pleasure always. Thank you.
Listen, were you forced into getting a solar contract and now you just don't want it anymore? Maybe the solar company misled you. Or is your solar contract buried with hidden fees? Are you not saving the amount of money you thought you would on your energy costs? Don't worry. At the Solar Exit Hotline, we can help you cancel your solar contract, even if the panels are already installed. Our experienced legal team will review your contract and help you cancel it, possibly saving you thousands of dollars. You got to call right now for complete details. So listen, if you're not happy with your solar contract for any reason, we are here to help you cancel it. Call the Solar Exit Hotline now for immediate options to help you exit your solar contract. This call is 100% free.
Call 855-227-0286. That's 855-227-0286. Call us right now. I get a lot of calls from people across the country who are suffering from the affliction of IRS tax debt, and that's because I have a remedy. Hi, I'm the tax doctor, and if you're having any of these tax issues, call me right now. My team specializes in helping people over the age of 50 solve their tax problems, and the bigger your tax problem is, the more money you can save. If you owe the IRS money, or you're about to owe the IRS money, or even if you need to file years of unfiled returns, call us right now. Our friendly, highly trained representatives are waiting right now to take your call. Over the years, we've helped thousands of people just like you stop the tax liens, wage garnishments, and harassing phone calls. You don't need to send the IRS a big fat check. We can negotiate a lower amount. That's what we guarantee for you. So call us right now. Call 833-789-3068.
Welcome back here to the show. Excuse the background noise. Lucas Oil Stadium producer Tony is joining us now. But I try to mute my mic a little bit, make sure we get your comments and your thoughts here. Hey, I want to first start with this NBA rule that we talked about, the 65-game rule, and it's a bit of a problem. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, Larry, it's kind of ridiculous the way they've got it planned out. With you have to play in 65 games to be eligible for any award, or the All-NBA team, to comeback player, whatever it is. You have to play in 65 games to be eligible. Well, that this year, if Luka doesn't come back because of this hamstring injury, he's going to only have played in 64. Therefore, a potential MVP candidate is going to be left out of the voting entirely. Cade Cunningham is not going to be eligible because he's missed some games because of an illness and then this collapsed lung. He's going to be out. Ant Edwards is already, because of some injuries, he's going to be left out. So none of these players are going to be on the All-NBA team. You include that with probably the best story of the season is Jason Tatum coming back. And because he's only will have played in 30 games, he's not going to be comeback player of the year. That, to me, is just ridiculous.
Yeah. And I understand why they do it. They don't want anybody to play, part of a season, or they sit out for, whatever, to hold on to record. But there's got to be some kind of alteration to that rule. to your point, where if it's legitimate, and I don't know what it is, if you played so many games by such a date, or I don't know, but I agree with you. When you look at it that way, I mean, you're taking out, what did you just mention, probably 8 of the top 12 players in the league right there?
Yeah, some of the best players in the entire NBA are not going to be up for any awards because of this rule. And it's just ridiculous. If you tell me that you're going to name an all-NBA team and this year it's not going to include Cade Cunningham or Luka Dončić, then that's not an all-NBA team. You can call it whatever you want, but it's not the all-NBA team.
Yeah, I can't argue with that at all. Hard to believe we have one more week in the NBA regular season and the playoffs beginning the week after that. And so here we go with that. Hey, okay, so it's Final Four time. Let's talk a little women right now. UConn, South Carolina, and then it is UCLA and Texas. I'm with you. I think there's a 2 great matchup, but I think it's UConn, UCLA on Sunday.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I'm looking forward to seeing UConn UCLA on Sunday. I want to see that Betts pairing going up against AZ Fudd and Sarah Strong, and see who can outmuscle who underneath, and see what happens in that game. Take nothing away from Texas or South Carolina; they're both having great seasons. They've got star players all around. You've got Madison Booker, you've got the stars over there. You got Edwards at South Carolina. There's enough star power, to light up a sky at the women's Final Four. And hopefully all of those games, hopefully those semifinal games are great, and whatever the final is, it's great. But I think from a purely a fan's point of view, I want to see UCLA and I want to see UConn, because I think that's the one team that can put up a fight to UConn in that championship game.
Yeah, I agree. It's they're loaded, and they keep reloading every year. But I love what UCLA has built out there with Coach Close. Love to see if they can come through and finishing off just the one loss there all year for UCLA. The men, meanwhile, this is interesting because you've got the 2-1 seeds in the second game, Michigan and Arizona. The other two that I won't say a surprise to be here, but it didn't go chalk. Many experts thought this would go chalk. All 4 number ones would go to the Final Four, like in the women's. But UConn certainly fought their way back against Duke, and the shot for the ages by Braylon Mullins to get here. And then Illinois, the offensive juggernaut, turning defensive Gestapo all of a sudden. But they were a team that many thought was a 1-seed caliber come the end of January before they eventually fell to a 3-seed. They're certainly playing like a 1-seed right now. These are 2 great matchups.
Yeah, you've got Illinois right now peaking at absolutely the right time, defensively and offensively. They're playing their best basketball of the year. They're sharing the ball. They're hitting inside. They're also shooting the 3 at a really good pace. Any number of people can beat you on that team, whether it's Wagler, whether it's Merkovich, whether it's Stojakovic. They can take it to the hole. And like in the tournament, they've played great defense. UConn has really stepped up the defensive pressure. I look for that to be kind of a low-scoring game, which I think might favor UConn a little bit. But I think if the star power comes to the top, I look for Keaton Wagler to have a bigger game than anybody on the UConn team and lead that Illinois team to victory.
And one thing about many Illinois fans and even Big Ten fans are very critical of Big Ten referees, and they really let a lot of physical stuff go. It did seem to affect Wagler's game. He seems to have found his mojo here in this tournament with officiating. It's a little more fair. I mean, we saw in almost every game there was a foul very early on, 40 feet from the court, where there was a defender grabbing and clutching, and they called it right away. I really felt like that set the tone for him, and he seems to have played much freer now than he did late in the season against Michigan, against Wisconsin, some of those games that we saw, even the Maryland game that was on Fox at the end of the season, much different. I know who I've got as my 2 winners here on Saturday. Let's start with you, my friend. Who do you have winning these 2 games?
I'm going Arizona, and I'm going Illinois. I think that's going to be our national championship game. Take nothing away from Michigan. I just like that Arizona team right now, the way they're playing. I think that they can stand up in the front court to Michigan and hold their own. The only caveat to that is if Landeborg has a huge game, then Michigan will win. They've got to control Landeborg, let somebody else beat you. That's my goal for Arizona. And then I just think Wagler and Illinois get it done against UConn. I just don't know that UConn has enough offensive firepower to win that ball game.
Yeah, I think Illinois, the way they're playing defense right now is the key. They really shut down Houston. We talked about all they can out of the 67 shots. Only 18 were uncontested. They did the same against Iowa. Iowa hit some ridiculous three-pointers to take in that game. They allowed only one 2-point field goal in the entire second half. I've never seen anything like that. Now, UConn is a much better team than Iowa. Let's be honest. But I think the same thing. I like Illinois in that game, and I'm going Arizona as well. I think Michigan is so impressive, and they've been my favorite all year long. But I picked Arizona in my bracket at the beginning of the season. I'm not going to stray from that, so I'm going Arizona, Illinois, in a rematch of the 2005 Elite Eight, 2001 Elite Eight. They're two of the great programs. They're at the turn of the century. Let's see if they can kind of rekindle some magic here in Indiana. We'll see if we're right coming up here on Monday. Okay, our moment of all is up next.
Do you want to save money on your next flight? Then pick up the phone and call. That's right, call. Because the best prices on airline tickets are not online. They're with SmartFares. See, SmartFares has special deals with the airlines. When they have unsold seats, they use SmartFares to fill them. So you get airline tickets at ridiculously low prices. They have access to great prices and discounts with over 500 different airlines, plus 300,000 hotels and rental car companies. Their prices are too low to publish online. The only way to learn more is make a free call. With the extra money you'll save, you can book another trip or treat yourself to dinner or shopping. So stop searching all of those travel sites to find the lowest price on your next trip. Let one of our SmartFares expert travel agents find the best prices for you. Call SmartFares today and get the best price on your next trip.
Okay, time now for a moment of awe. We go on this day back in 2005 when the Tennessee Lady Vols got the victory in their national championship, the seventh in school history, led by the great Candace Parker, who on this weekend we're going to find out is going to go into the Basketball Hall of Fame. It was the seventh title for the legendary coach Pat Summitt, who would win her eighth a few years later. But it was on this day, 2005, the Lady Vols of Tennessee getting the NCAA championship, and that's our moment of awe. Thanks to our guest stopping by, the great Pete Babcock, the longtime NBA exec. Great to talk with him again. Love that Tony got a chance to spend a few minutes with him. And also Aryton Ostly of USA Today. Good to have him on. Hopefully he'll come back as well. Enjoy the games this weekend. We will be from here in Indianapolis. We will talk to you on Monday after a great weekend of hoops here on the Sports IQ. We'll see you then.
Thanks for listening to Sports IQ with Larry Smith, Monday through Friday. Continue the conversation at Sports IQ LS. We'll see you next time.